Today it is day 56 of 365 days of realizations. Trina right here. And today is a special day and I decided to do a double sharing. I'm going to share a little bit about that and then I'm going to bring it all together. So we're going to talk a little bit about alignment, partnership, loving ourselves full, facing our doubts, living into them, and using the only evidence that we really ever need to use of our epicness and who we really are. And we're going to try to have fun with all that. So today is the 3-year anniversary of my aligned partnership with my beloved Frank. And for those of you that don't know or that do, that was a pure manifestation on my part. I mean, I was in a space of loving myself so full, like intoxicatingly, deliriously swirling in my own self, in my own beingness, amplifying the connection between myself and my inner being just over and over and over. And I had little to no intention or feeling or pull at that point to even have a relationship. And yet through magic, because that's how it feels and that's how it works when you just trust it, I ended up with him in a funny little way. And we just were present with each other and we were just full of ourselves and swirling in that together with no intention, in the sense of no expectation, and just like purely just there. And it's so funny because I remember that first day that we spent together, we didn't even really talk about our history or any of that nonsense. We didn't. It was just like we talked about our alignment and we talked about joy and bliss and our biggest desires and the teachings of Abraham Hicks and how we could use all of that to be the most epic being we knew how to be. And little did we know what was in store for us 3 years later. The other big thing that was really, really, really poignant, actually it was 5 years because we've been married for 3, but together for 5. But what was really poignant is our joining was for me based on being in an unconditional relationship, because I had already moved into this notion of living an unconditional life, which means that I don't need the conditions outside of myself to look a certain way for me to feel happy, for me to feel joy, that I am totally grounded in the knowing that everything I feel, the joy I feel, the love I feel, the bliss I feel, the connection I feel, the certainty I feel, whatever arises in my life comes from me, because there's just this well of beingness, this well of sourceness that is within us all, that is just there flowing continuously. And the only thing that could ever interrupt that flow is just your focus. It's just you building up resistance between you and that flow. It's still flowing. You just might get a trickle instead of a gush, a rush. And I'll tell you, I want the gush and the rush. And so if I use things outside of myself to be my excuse to not feel good, guess what? I can't get the rush. And there is nobody on this planet that can love me enough, consistently enough, fully enough, selflessly enough, that will take me to that flow. It is something that is just unique to the relationship I have with my inner being, that can only be self-sourced through that relationship that I had with Source, through the partnership of my inner being. And so when I think about aligned partnership, which is what Frank and I dove into so fully, so wholeheartedly, and I remember the sort of vows that the promises that we gave to each other, and my favorite was, I promised to love myself first and fully, and from that place of fullness to flow my love to you. Because when you're so full like that, you're oozing. It's just everywhere. You can't not feel it. You can't not be it. You can't not express it. And so in that moment, I was conscious in my choice that I'm going to flow that love to you. And in doing that, I'm going to pull the absolute best aspects of him out to dance and play with me. And so often in relationships, we don't do that. We start out with that because we're in that love feeling and we think that the person outside of us is responsible for the love feeling, but they weren't. They helped us to come into alignment with ourselves. They helped us to feel the experience of ourselves, because most of us believed that it needed to be something outside of us. So then we felt that fullness and we placed it on top of someone else. And we thought, okay, that's what makes me feel this way. But it isn't. And when they start to deviate or they start to drift or they start to come back to their own selfishness, which is part of the priority here of being selfish enough to love yourself first and foremost. Because if you don't do that, you don't have that available energy to give to anyone else. well, then that's what sort of goes wrong. And also, we are constantly in that focus. If you want something from someone and they're not giving it to you, now you're pulling that aspect through the law of attraction out of them that can't give you the thing that you think you want. Better to be grounded from the inside out in what you are. And so that flow is always there. And unconditionality just simply means that I am going to feel that flow in every single moment, in as many moments as I can. I'm going to be conscious about it. I'm going to live my life in a way that activates it, that accentuates it. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to be conscious. I'm going to go play in nature. I'm going to swirl in my beingness. And I'm going to have fun and joy and bliss and laugh. And then when I look at Frank, because I remember him and I many years ago, 5 years ago or so, talking about, so what is the value of having a relationship if we know this about ourselves? And the value is I get to play my alignment out loud. I get to have him be the physical manifestation of my inner being, which doesn't mean he's not still a person. It doesn't mean that he still doesn't have his stuff. But my work is to evermore, in every single moment, see him the way my inner being sees me, the way his inner being sees him, the way it would look as if I was seeing it through the eyes of Source. That is the epitome of unconditionality. It doesn't mean I accept things I don't like. It means that I am so grounded in my own beingness that I like everything I see. Hard to explain, beautiful to live. So that is the celebration that I am doing today. And it is massive. Like, it is just so incredible. It is the deepest, most profound, most marvelous, most amazing, most resonant manifestation that I have ever experienced or created. And I know that I created it, and it is life-changing, because when you have a partner that wants to do that with you, when you're both spiritually conscious beings that want to put your feet on the path and realize the truth of this reality, the truth of this illusory reality, want to play that game, want to amp it up, but also not take it too seriously and just play and have fun of it. It's just delicious. It is just, and delicious on layers that I can't even explain, like beyond just the like traveling together and having epic sex and this it's so much more than that. And it isn't even this tapping into like, oh, I feel so safe and I can just be fully myself. It's even beyond that, because I'm in this space where like really I am so self-sourced with this that it doesn't much matter to me, in essence, what he says. I mean, but yet at the same time, when you don't care, then that's when the thing that you want is there and can't not be there. It's so strange. It's like you give them freedom, and then in that freedom they discover the love they have, that they flow to you. So one of my fun examples is he has watched every single one of these videos. He is my diehard fan, and not because I asked him to, not because I need him to, not because I need his validation or support or any of that. He just does it because he loves it. He loves tuning in, and he loves hearing me be an open channel for Source and whatever wants to flow through me. So what a fun thing to celebrate. And I don't know what the celebration is going to look like other than me dancing around in the woods by myself, because I know that it all started here. It couldn't have been expressed out there. I couldn't have had the experiences that I have with him without first having this epic relationship with my inner being, with understanding who I really am and where my true, sustainable joy, bliss, happiness, alignment comes from. So then it's going to seem funny to shift gears and say, I am back down at that bridge. And I don't know if we can see the bridge. I guess it was a little bit there in the background. I'm going to walk up to it because I thought that today would be an epic day to accentuate that, to accentuate every single bit of this manifestation. This is evidence that I could just create this epic thing, that I stood in this doubtless place. You know, I remember this understanding of like, I'm going to fall deliriously, intoxicatingly in love with myself, even though I don't remember what that means. But I did know I'm going to do what I'm nudged to do. I'm going to do what feels good, what feels exciting in the moment. I'm going to use no excuse to get in the way of the flow that I know is me. And I'm going to trust that everything is going to unfold exactly in perfection, in what is that I'm asking for, in what it is that I have already put into the ethers of wanting to create, and why I'm here. Like, what is my purpose and what am I doing here? And just to trust and trust and trust and trust all of that. And I had years before sort of written this list, or it wasn't even a list. It was more of like an imagineering, a visualization, but I wrote it out as if this is the man that I was living with, and this was the life we had created, and we danced around in the kitchen. And what's so funny is at the time that I wrote it, I was married to someone else and didn't even see it as something that was necessarily in my near future. And yet it was like a year and a bit later that manifested. And so I have evidence that I know that I am the creator. And I thought it would be a great day today, on this day, as I step more into greatness in other ways, in more expression of myself, in more stepping into what I believe I was born to come here for, or what is my blueprint, what is my reason for being, which is to share like this with all of you, to just share it, to teach what I've come to know, to do that as my life's work, and to do it with passion and with energy and with full focus and full presence and full trust in all of it, and how all of it's going to come together, and just share from the truest, most purest space that I've discovered. And as I step into that, sometimes little niggling doubts come up for me, just around like how exactly to do it. And I know the how isn't my thing, but I tend to want to do it. So I wanted to use the example again of this beautiful, wonderful bridge that was created in such an epic way to carry me to the other side of that creek, Deer Creek, and to recognize that in stepping on that bridge, which if you remember, if you've seen any of my other videos, then you know that I have spoken a little bit about having a fear the first time. Well, I came here, I was actually kind of frozen with fear and didn't cross the bridge. And then since then I've done another video where I've crossed it. So I've gone over it quite a few times now. And I love how it, just like my relationship represents my alignment out loud, this represents the spiritual conscious process out loud. It's an example of that. It's an example of like using this bridge as a full physical manifestation of the support that I have from the universe, and also the design of it. Like, I don't need to know how it all works together. I just know it works. It works. I can trust it. It works. It's solid. It's got me. That's it. That's all I have to trust in all of this experience. And so that's what I love about it. So I'm just going to head up there now. I'm going to do another little walk, just a walkabout, just do a little walk across the bridge, tune into myself with my inner being, and just solidify myself in that experience of trust. I was just down closer to the water, and I'm walking back up to the bridge. And since I don't know how to turn the camera, you're going to do this with me. We're going to do this as a mutual experience. We have a quiet space. I'm just going to zoom down there and see. There is, I don't know if we can see it, but there's the creek. There's the bridge. So before I step in the sun, and you can't really see me, I'm just going to take a moment and attune with my inner being, with that feeling of sure-footedness, doubtlessness, trust and flow. And there's this letting go, as if you could just fall backwards into the arms of the universe, into your inner being. Here I go. So I'm on the bridge. What's really interesting is because it's a suspension bridge, I'm going to shake the camera, it has a little bit of motion that's created just from me walking. And what's really cool about that is it knows how to right itself. It knows with every step I take how to rebalance itself, how to recalibrate itself, how to reconfigure, just like the universe does with me, just like the universe is always doing with each and every one of us. So that if we're not being fully aware of a nudge, don't worry, another nudge will come. The universe will just recalibrate. It'll just look at what you're asking for, what your deepest desire is, what your personal preference is, what you can hear, what you're allowing, and it'll just call you again. And look at that, here I am. Woo, the sun is shining. So I made it to the other side, and what's so funny about this, and I'm just gonna keep taking you with me because it's fun, is my car is back over there on the other side. So I get to do it again, which is so fun. And I like the feeling of the sun shining down on me, calling me to feel this source. And what I think is so interesting, I'm just going to take a couple minutes to say this, is that when we feel like this, the way I feel right now, like just so enamored with myself, so in love with myself, so sure that I create my own reality, so celebrating every one of those creations, well, guess what? It's much easier then to have more and more and more thoughts that match that. because I've attuned to that feeling, and the law of attraction will just keep bringing them. That's the good reason to, when you feel an offness, just take the dip and move back as quickly as you can. Do some investigation if that helps. Dig into it a little bit to clean it up if you need to, but the quicker you can get back into the connection with your inner being, the quicker you're going to get in line with those thoughts that are going to bring you back to this place, bring you back to this place. Because ultimately that flow I was talking about that we all have inside of us brings us to this feeling of bliss. And that's the state of being that is our true nature. That's the state of being that is who we are. That epicness, that feeling of invincibility, indestructibility, that everything is going exactly perfect for me, and that I have this inner being concierge who knows how to create and knows how to pull together all cooperative components, everything that could ever need to be to take me to the next thing, just like the beautiful design of this bridge. Look at this. I don't know if I can line it up perfectly, but there you see the structure part of it that's holding it up, that's supporting it, and then the design of the bridge as a suspension bridge. That means that it can move with me and flow with me, and just know that that's what your inner being is doing. So let's go again. Let's go back over the bridge. Feel the sun shining on me. Now I just love it. I get a kick out of it. It's so fun because it really feels like when I just move, look at this, I'm moving, it moves, and my inner being knows how to write things just like this bridge does. So cool, so awesome. I love finding ways to make spiritual concepts that seem conceptual more visceral, more felt. I think it is the coolest thing ever, and it really, really helps to make it more visceral, to make it more real. And here I am again at the other side of the bridge. Look at there behind me. Filled with trust and certainty and so much bliss and joy. And I am going to go home, find my aligned partner, give him a big kiss, and be so appreciative of all that I have created and all that is becoming, because I know that that is true, and I wish all of that for you. So if you have any thoughts about it, any questions, I just invite you to drop those in the comments, and I will see you soon tomorrow. Bye.